This was a few years ago, I'd like to say around 2012. Me and my best friend had to be around 18 or 19 at the time. And for the sake of the story, let's call him Dom. Me and Dom were doing what teenagers usually do on a weekend. It had actually just gotten back from a house party around 2 to 3 a.m. That night, we were gonna crash at his place after we got back from partying. Keep in mind, Dom's dad was a ranking officer in the Marines, so he was hard on Dom about punctuality. We had to be back on base where Dom lived by 12 at the latest. So back to leaving the party. Mine and Dom's mutual friend Alex dropped us off about a few blocks away from the entrance to the base, sneaking past the MPs at 2 in the morning, just to get to Dom's house. And all the doors, windows, etc. are locked. Great, we sneak back off base. I'm a little buzzed and tired. My house was about a 20 to 25 minute walk from the base, so I suggested to Dom that we should just go back to my place. So as we're walking down the street, Dom suggests that we go to this girl's house that we met at the party. Keep in mind, guys, by this hour it's 3 a.m. and I'm tired. There is a pungent smell in the air, like something died, and I just want to go home to crash. All while I'm trying to convince him to call it a night. I keep noticing this man with long black hair following us. I didn't think much of it at the time. Dom says he's going to go meet with the girls, so I say bet. Dap him up and he crosses to the opposite side of the street from where I'm at. At this point, the pungent smell felt burnt into my nose. And you know that feeling you get when somebody is watching you? I had that overwhelming feeling, tenfold. Keep in mind, I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico. My neighborhood is nationally called the War Zone, predominantly known for its violence, etc. No, I'm not trying to glorify it. But it is what it is, right? So for the most part, I'm desensitized to a lot of things. Because of what I saw growing up. I don't scare easy. To paint a better picture of who I am as a person, I'm the guy who gets killed first in the horror movies, because I investigated the strange sound outside. I still got that overwhelming feeling, so I turned around. The man with the long black hair is right behind me. And to this day, I couldn't give you a good description of his face. He looked Native American or Latino. His face was very ambiguous. So I turned towards him to confront him. He said something I couldn't really understand. But when I looked into his eyes, I saw pitch black, but life in them at the same time. I felt like 10 concrete blocks were pushed against my chest. And folks, this still gives me goosebumps to this day. The man made me relive every bad deed I've ever done at that point. No, I've never murdered anyone or crossed that line. But the violent acts I committed were being played in front of me. Where I'm from, you're programmed at a young age to just absolutely hate anything that wasn't from my neighborhood. I used to bang 60s Crips from God, 8 till about 22. Biggest mistake of my life, which I paid for. I saw the robberies I committed, the beatings. It was lucid. It felt real, and I felt the other's pain in my memories too. He was doing this to me. I saw life and I saw death at that moment. And to what I comprehended, life is a bright light, and mine is dimming out. The light was leaving my body. What snapped me out of it was Dom noticed from the opposite side of the street, about a good 50 feet out according to him, and came running up to my aid. The first thing I remember was snapping out of it, and gave me the most clear image of the long-haired man. He was in a red dress shirt, no tie, and black trench coat. After Dom approached both of us, the long-haired man just gave me this smile that still gives me nightmares to this day, nodded his head and walked backwards facing me, literally for about 4 to 5 blocks, as we're walking away as well. So keep in mind we got a separation of about 8 to 10 blocks now, because we're walking in opposite directions away from the long-haired man. For some reason, being entranced wasn't the scariest part for me. What really messed me up is as soon as we turned down the side street that gets us to my place, we didn't even get a block down the street before I turned to look at the corner, and the long-haired man in the blade trench coat is now right at the corner of the main street and side street we turned onto. It would have been impossible for Usain Bolt to close that distance in about 30 to 45 seconds. But the king-haired man had to have teleported or something. So now, Dom is starting to freak out, and I haven't even told him yet about the trance the long-haired man put me under. So we turned back around to walk in the direction we needed to. Now, remember that pungent smell I told y'all about earlier? I smell it again and Dom notices it too. I do a quick double take and see that the long-haired man is gone. And man, when I tell you I felt my heart was beating out of my chest, I swear, it felt like I had all the adrenaline in the world run through my body. I let Dom know he's gone. As soon as we turn back around, a black dog appears right in front of us out of nowhere. The dog starts barking at us, and the smell is coming from the dog. The dog was in some shadows, and all you can see is a silhouette of the dog's eyes. Pitch black, like death, but with life in them. It was the long-haired man. It had to be. The dog stops barking and starts walking backwards facing us, just like the long-haired man. But I noticed Dom has a catatonic look on his face. So at that point, I grab Dom by the back of his neck. He comes to and we book it until we get to my apartment. Dom was white as a ghost. He's black and Pinoy, but he was white as snow after that. Once we're safely back at my place, Dom has a meltdown and cries. Dom used to have an older cousin that drowned when they were kids. Dom to this day is not a great swimmer, so when he was dropping bits and pieces, I was able to deduce the situation. Dom's cousin drowned trying to save him after Dom was carried out by a riptide. Here in New Mexico, we have a very rich background in multicultures. Native American, Mexican, Tex-Mex, Cali-Mex, and of course, Borgueño culture. So going to school out here, you're taught different legends. My family on my mom's side are originally from Mexico and moved to a small town called Hatch, New Mexico. Best green chile is grown there. My family grew up very superstitious, but I myself was a person of science and needed concrete proof before I even considered something fact. So you can believe that night in 2012 broke down everything I thought I knew. I've talked to several people, and they all say the man could have been a skinwalker or a vampire. But I don't believe that. I knew he was evil, but what is our perception of what evil is? The long-haired man played all my past transgressions in my head. Could he have harmed me? Absolutely. But did he? I don't know. That night changed me for the better in some ways. I dropped my colors and went to school, and I'm doing pretty darn good for myself now. That night wasn't the same for Don. I felt like he changed too, but for the worst. He went into a depression and turned to the bottle. The years have been a little better for him, but I think the long-haired man sees the conflict in people and feeds off of it. He shows you what you don't want to see. That night could have made or broke me, but I built from it. It was an absolutely terrifying experience that gave me the best clarity I've ever got at the same time.